much for having the Blueprint team here today. It's a great day to be here because last night we had our big board meeting, and I feel this, even though I slept terribly last night just from all the energy, but I feel like a huge weight has been lifted. Every time we have one of those meetings, the next day I can breathe and get back to doing the good work that I do. And I love implementing the projects of the program. And it's exciting and challenging to go in front of the board, but it is probably one of our more stressful moments working at Blueprint. But anyhow, today I feel great, and I love eating here because they have the best fried chicken. And so I love that, and I love eating at the Elks Lodge because they have good fried chicken there too. But that's exciting for me because I try to maintain a healthy diet, and this is my chance. So thank you again for having me, and I want to make one recognition first before I start on the presentation. Do you guys know Hugh Tomlinson? Yes. Yeah. Hugh has been on the Blueprint Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, the committee since I think 2016.
So he does show up.
He does. He does.
We just want to make sure he does. We appreciate it.
He contributes, and he reads the material beforehand. He's a great member, and he's been a part of the Blueprint transition from Blueprint 2000 to Blueprint 2020, which has been we put some pretty tough decisions and recommendations on that Citizens Advisory Committee, and Hugh has been a great servant for NEBA, and we appreciate him being on there. Today we have Dan Shear. He is our design and construction manager for Blueprint, but he's also the project manager for the Northeast Gateway project. So today he'll be talking about some of that kind of stuff with Blueprint. He comes from DOT, he's an engineer, he's also in the military, and he's a great person to work with every day. We work really closely. And Abe Prado is also an engineer, and he is a senior project manager for Blueprint, and he is the project manager for the Airport Gateway project, another one of those key regional infrastructure projects for the Blueprint program and for our community. And so he's going to be talking about that project today, as well as some of our other Southside area projects. So please don't hold back. If you have any questions about either of those projects, they're really the experts, subject matter experts on both of those. So please don't hold back. Okay, and then lastly, a little Blueprint recap. So Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency really has two divisions. One is infrastructure, where we work and where I'm the director, and then there's also the Office of Economic Vitality, and the director there is a woman named Christina Paredes. I imagine she's probably spoken to this group before, maybe not too recently, but at least in the past. So all that being said, last night, one of probably the biggest decision that was made at the Intergovernmental Agency Board meeting last night was funding for the FSU Stadium. So if anybody was watching that through the paper, the IA Board did decide to fund the FSU Stadium renovations for Doak Campbell Stadium to the tune of $20 million. So I can probably provide some very high-level information on that, but I don't have maybe some of the details if any of you are really wanting those details. But we can certainly help to convey those back to OEV and Christina, and maybe if you're interested in doing her as a speaker, we'd be happy to share that information. Okay, all right. So go back. Oh no, that's okay. That's all right. I think the very first slide. Yes. Okay. It's sensitive. I know, just come on. It really doesn't matter. What it is, the very first slide is the ballot language from the 2014 referendum, which 65% of the voters voted to extend the penny sales tax for another 20 years from 2020 to 2040. And we take that ballot language very, very seriously at the staff level. We actually measure our success against the ballot language. And it was basically to improve water, protect our water, expand our recreation, reduce traffic congestion, invest in economic development. And so anyhow, our prioritization for how the projects are actually being rolled out were prioritized against the ballot language too. So that's pretty serious for us. We call that the Blueprint Promise. And we'll come back to that towards the end of the presentation. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. These are our Blueprint projects that you're familiar with. He listed them earlier. These are Blueprint 2000 projects: Capital Cascades Park, Capitol Circle widening, that's this stretch from Woodville Highway up to Tram in that area. I'm sure many of you probably remember that bumper-to-bumper traffic. I know I do. And of course, the Capitol Cascades Trail along FAMU Way. Blueprint builds beautiful projects. We apply a multi-layered approach called a holistic approach to the program. So if we have a single purpose, like a stormwater facility, then we're going to look at that and see, since we're in there, how can we more efficiently bring more community values into that project? So stormwater, recreation trails, arts and culture, and bike ped facilities, all in the same project, which really yields a beautiful product. So who is, any accountants in the room? Any financial CFOs? I know, I just talked to somebody who was a CFO. Okay, all right, good. So our revenues, I want to just share a little bit about it, because COVID had an impact on our sales tax revenues, just as I'm sure it had an impact on many of our businesses in the local community. So the way the Blueprint tax is divided right now for the Blueprint 2020 program, you got 100%, 10% off the top to the city, 10% off the top to the county. Another 2% goes to LIFE projects, which is livable infrastructure for everybody, which is basically goes to the county for road paving. And then 12% goes to the Office of Economic Vitality, and then 66% goes to the infrastructure, Blueprint infrastructure program, which is what we do and where we work. So we collect 66% of the sales tax. COVID did a number on us. It set us back about 2.5 years in terms of our growth. So as you can see here, by the time we get to fiscal year 22, we're going to be back to that 2019 level of sales tax collection. It grew, 2021 had more positive growth than we anticipated when COVID first came into play. So that was good for us because it brought in a bit more money to be able to allocate to the projects than we thought that we would have. Next slide. Excellent, okay. Let me catch up because I'm having a little trouble seeing the slides from here. Okay, cool. I think it's fun to talk about big numbers. We, of course, focus on the 66%, which is great and all, but what is the sales tax doing on that 100%? What impact does it have to our community? From fiscal year 22 to 40, so the next 18 years, because we're already, 1 year in, going into the second year, 2 years in, going into the third year, is $1.03 billion. So we're looking at $1 billion coming into our community, an investment in ourselves, right? Because the infrastructure projects are an investment in this community to create a better sense of place, to reduce traffic congestion, to build more recreation, and to protect our drinking water and our water bodies, back to that ballot referendum language, right? So $1 billion coming into the community for infrastructure. We, of course, get 66% of that. So our 66% at infrastructure is $644.6 million. In total for Blueprint and OEV, 761. The Blueprint program was advanced by the Blueprint board. So what I mean by that is recognizing the positive economic impact of infrastructure projects like Cascades Park. Cascades Park wasn't there, we wouldn't have the North American Properties project. Cascades Park, $35 million project, North American Properties, $350 million economic impact, right? Tried and true economic impact from infrastructure projects. So the board said, hey, you've got 20 more years of sales tax revenue. We know we're not going to get all that revenue in the first year, right? It's going to take 20 years to bring it all in to fund the projects. Let's advance fund these projects so that we can get that economic investment, that infrastructure investment into the community quicker, creating jobs, direct jobs, such as construction jobs, but also spurring the economic development around the infrastructure program. So they authorized a bond and loan program of work for us. So over the next 5 years, the infrastructure program will issue $170.5 million worth of bonds and loans. 145 of that is your traditional government bond, and then another 25 million through the state infrastructure bank loan, which is hopefully going to be a lower cost loan than doing the commercial market for the Northeast Gateway project. which is exciting because we wouldn't be able to see some of the impact numbers that we're going to see in the next slide. So let's talk about the next 5 years. Last night, the IA board approved our 5-year capital improvement program. That's the projects that are going into construction, planning, design, construction over the next 5 years. And next slide. I like to talk about what's actually going to be turning dirt. We've got 32 projects that are going to be going into construction between fiscal year, some that are already in construction, 21 and fiscal year 26. 32 projects turning dirt in our community. Those 32 projects represent almost $520 million worth of infrastructure investment. That's a lot, right? If we're only getting $644 million over the life of the program, we're putting $520 million in the first 5 years. Now that does take into account prior year allocations. So, you know, we got some padding there to be able to move those projects forward now, particularly the ones that are from the Blueprint 2000 program. But we're pretty excited to be able to do that. Over the next, in fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, 17 projects are going into construction. So all of this kind of planning and preparation that we've been doing since the sales tax passed in 2014 is finally starting to really pay off. Next slide, please. Here they are on the map. You don't have to read the details. You guys are from Tallahassee. You basically know where we are. Center of the map is pretty much downtown. Projects spread around the community, projects geographically diverse, projects that are also type diverse. So we've got trail projects, road projects, water quality projects, all spread around the community. Next slide, please. We have some that are under construction now. The Magnolia Drive Trail project started construction in July. That goes from South Monroe to Pontiac. Anticipated completion in spring of next year. Next slide. Projects along Cascades Trail Segment 3, which is that FAMU Way segment, extension of the Lake Anita Plaza. If you ever need to have an event, a nice outdoor event with some cover, that's a great place to have an event at Lake Anita Plaza. Coal Chute Pond amenities and the construction of the 3DB stormwater facility is underway. 90% dug out, huge stormwater pond there, and the St. Mark's Trail getting ready to be constructed. Next slide. All right, so let's see those projects on the map. The hot pink line represents the construction start. So in fiscal year 21, which ends in a couple of days, 6 projects in construction. In 22, next slide, please. 11 projects in construction. We're starting to really see some activity there. Fiscal year 23, next slide. Perfect, thank you, is where we see the impacts of the bond coming into play. I mean, we went from $91 million worth of construction starts in fiscal year 22 to $272 worth of construction starts in 23. That includes some of those regional projects like Airport Gateway, Bannerman Road, Northeast Gateway. Next, please. 24, we're starting to kind of slow down a little bit. Some of the big stuff is already underway. There's a lot of construction activity still pulsing through the community, but some of the starts are starting to slow down, and as you can see, the dollar amount goes down too. So we're really peaking in 23, but the money expenditure, because those construction projects are so long-term, is still getting pushed into the economy. And by the time we get to 25, we don't have any new construction starts. My goodness, so over the next 5 years, we are going to be very, very busy. There's still construction activity, definitely is indicated by the lighter pink, which is a little hard to see, but that is my exciting presentation about the 5-year plan. And I'll come back at the end and kind of wrap it up, but I'm going to turn it to Dan Shear to talk about the projects that are in planning and design.
Thank you. Hope I don't break this. Thank you, Madam Director, and y'all can hear me well. Dan Shear, Blueprint Design and Construction. I'm going to talk a little bit about the projects we currently have in active planning and design. You can see here a small list of the ones that we're currently working on in our program, and our team is diligently working with our consultants here in town to implement these wonderful projects. Next slide, please. First project we're going to highlight is the Northeast Connector Corridor, and everybody in this town knows it as the Bannerman Road Widening Project. But it's an exciting project where we're going to widen Bannerman Road from basically Preservation, which is the entrance or exit, depends on which perspective you're looking, of Summerbrook, all the way to Thomasville Road, or we're really going to stop at Quail Commons, which is where the county stopped. But so we'll have 4 lanes divided with a median. between those two sections. And then from Meridian Road to Preservation, we're going to widen the road a little bit and create a median to facilitate some operational improvements. We're also going to include some pedestrian facilities, multi-use trails and sidewalks, in addition to other enhancements along the corridor that you'll see, including modernizing it and urbanizing it with curb and gutter and stormwater facilities. The impetus for this is a lot of the new residential and commercial development that's going on in that area. I'm sure everybody knows the organic growth up there. And with the Orchard Pond Parkway coming in and the tie to Thomasville Road, this is a very important connection in our community that needs to be widened and is very well received up there in that community. So exciting project.
Bike lanes coming in there?
No bike lanes, sir. We're going to do multi-use trails on both sides of the road between Preservation and Thomasville Road. So you'll have two 10-foot multi-use trails on each side of the road to utilize. Yes, sir. We found the sidebar. Not a lot of people are comfortable riding on roads like that, like Thomasville Road or Bannerman Road. So we try to pull them off of the roads for safety reasons and comfort reasons and multi-skill levels of users. Next slide, please. As the director mentioned, this is my project, the Northeast Gateway Project, and the only other people in this room that are probably more familiar with this project than me is Dave and Mary Lang, who are sitting right in front of me making sure I don't say anything wrong, but we love them and they've been great partners in that project for us for the past couple of years. But this is a very exciting new corridor in our community, and the true driver of this project is, growth is coming to Northeast Tallahassee. And we have two beautiful roads, Centerville Road and Miccosukee Road, and beautiful canopy roads that we want to preserve and protect and never want to widen those roads if we can avoid it. So as part of that, we've worked, I guess, in concert with a private landowner up there, including the Langs. They are now part of that discussion. But to build this new facility, extend it from the canopy development, where we're building the new Welaunee Boulevard there, through the city of Tallahassee. Electric owns a small parcel south of I-10, so we're extending it through there. We're going to go over I-10 with a new bridge and go through the powerhouse property of the Welaunee Plantation, as it's known historically, and connect up at Roberts Road, Centerville Road, Bradfordville Road area. So a real exciting project. It also includes a Shamrock South connection to Shamrock South, to Welaunee Boulevard, and is really going to open up this area to future growth in our community and facilitate the transportation needs that come with that growth. Next slide, please. It's important to note that projects of this scale, as the director was mentioning earlier, have huge economic impacts above the construction costs. So the total cost for this project is around $70 million, including a new greenway for our communities for recreational use. But above and beyond that, just the direct impact for construction, the $70 million investment, we're expected to see over $100 million output and economic output of that. That's pretty impressive, and these numbers come from the Center of Economic Forecasting and Analysis through FSU, so an independent research arm that we leverage here in our community. But jobs are being created, and lots of income being created, and just amazing amounts of impact from an economic generation of this project. And the bigger numbers are on the next slide. So once this project is done, the non-roadway development opportunity for what this can yield in our community is astounding. Anywhere from 2.2 to 8.2 billion in total output in sales over the next 20 years. 18,000 to 70,000 potential jobs created in our community should this development come online as we anticipate. And then the other thing that a lot of our, that people don't really look at too much, but is $250 to $1 billion in additional revenue and property taxes and things along that line that could also be reinvigorated into our community through this project as growth happens in our community. So very exciting project. Next slide, please. These are the next steps. Again, if you want to know more about these next steps, talk to Mary and Dave. They'll be able to dial you in on the exact dates things are happening. But we are applying for the SIB loan that Autumn talked about, the State Infrastructure Bank loan. We've done that. We've actually received a favorable endorsement by DOT for that loan, so that's a great thing for our community. Design started in June of this year, and we are in the very early stages. We've set the alignment, and we've come up with our operational solutions, and we're working on developing plans and surveys right now to get to right-of-way acquisition in the near future. So you can see the right-of-way negotiations are currently ongoing. We're working on the greenway first, and then we're going to convey the roadway alignment right away next. Design and permitting expected to be complete by the end of the calendar year next year, and then we will start eagerly into construction in very early 2023. I hope to have the bid documents on the table right after the holidays in January 2023 for this project. And as part of this, it's not the reason, but it is also an additional benefit. But the community's looking at an I-10 interchange, a new I-10 interchange at this location where Wilani Boulevard is going to cross I-10. It'll be exactly 2 miles between Mahan and Thomasville Road. So it'll be right in the middle. 4 miles is that stretch. So right at the 2 mile mark, we're going to put a new interchange and open up additional opportunities for our community to use this. DOT is very excited because y'all know Project Mango, Amazon's coming to Mahan, so that interchange is going to get a lot more heavily utilized. And we already know Thomasville Road interchange is not the best thing in the world, especially around rush hour. So this will give us another opportunity to get on the interstate and off the interstate for commerce and also people and traffic in our community, and alleviate those 2 other heavily utilized, futurely heavily utilized at Mahan, but currently heavily utilized at Thomasville Road. And so DOT is super excited about that opportunity, and we anticipate getting that started in 2023 once we start construction on this project to do an interchange justification report, and we'll go through that process with the FHWA. It's a little lengthy, but we think we're going to get there, and we hope to have this project without the interchange open for your use by 2025, the end of 2025. So very aggressive schedule. Next, we have the Market District Placemaking Project. This is a new park in the Market District area, and we are actually evaluating the proposals right now for the final design of this project. It's a new $6 million, is that correct? $6 million park right in the heart of Market District, where an old stormwater facility used to be. The city filled it in. And the city's also doing a bunch of enhancements in here, including roundabouts and additional on-street, parking. Really going to make this a destination facility for families and communities. Be water play, children's play, large green space. The KCCI Bike Skills Park will be here, including a lot of walking trails and a promenade. It's just a great family community space. We expect to have that under construction next year, hopefully. Next, we have the Animal Services Shelter, which I don't even have the slide for. I think it's on Abe's. But this is exciting because this got implemented yesterday, last night. This was the lowest priority project on our list of projects that the director talked about originally contemplated. But we've advanced the priority 1 upgrades for this facility on the tune of about $3.8 million. And so we're excited to implement this. Everybody loves animals, so we're really excited in the office about this. So, but again, an exciting project for us, the implementation of the Animal Services Shelter. With that, I would like to turn it over to Abe Prado, and he's going to talk a little bit about Airport Gateway and our projects on the south side.
While Abe is coming up, I want to just mention something about the Animal Service Center. So the IA board approved advancing that into our 5-year plan last night. But a key component to that advancement is that the project was in our long-range plan not funded until 2036. And the total funding amount for that project was $8.8 million in 2036. So what happened was a needs assessment was performed by the Animal Service Center, and that needs assessment identified these urgent priority improvements, and the cost of those urgent priority improvements was $3.8 million. So so that $3.8 million will be included in our fiscal year 22 bond issuance. So our bond issuance went up by $3.8 million last night. But the trade-off was by moving forward in priority into the 5-year plan now, that spending was placed in lieu of the 8.8 in fiscal year 36. So to be clear though, the total cost of bonding the 3.8 million is about $5.5 million just of the interest payments, right? So the actual cost of the program is less because it's in lieu of the 8.8 in the later years, but it does bring those improvements, those urgent needs into the program a little bit earlier. So that's the deal on that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having us. As Dan mentioned, I'm going to talk about some of our Southside projects here, and as he mentioned, we're actually going to be arm wrestling at the office to see who gets to manage the Animal Service Center, because everybody wants to be near the puppies. He mentioned that possibility at our last staff meeting, and everybody just started trying to jockey for position, mentioning how many pets we had or didn't have. So this is our Southside Action Plan area. And this is an area that has been of high focus to our governing board, the IA board. And it's, as the name implies, it's the south side of town. It's an area that has, for the most part, historically not seen a lot of activity and development going into it. And this gives us the opportunity to invest a lot of funds into that area. So we have 17 total projects in that, and 12 of those are going to be going in construction between this year and next year. And we're going to highlight a couple of those here in the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. Well, I'm personally biased to this one because this is my project. It's the Airport Gateway. Enhances 7 miles of roadways and 12 miles of multimodal facilities. And it also provides an opportunity to build a connection between downtown Tallahassee and the airport. Not only a aesthetically pleasing, but also a safety enhanced and multimodal facility. So once we do that, we'll have, again, ways to get to the airport or to downtown Tallahassee that don't necessarily rely on a vehicle. And it also provides a designated entryway into Innovation Park. You know, that's one of the areas that we've seen a lot of opportunities in, and right now the current entry point is through a residential neighborhood. So this gives us the ability to create a designated entry point to there and also link it to the airport. So again, it just provides a key connection between the airport, Innovation Park, and downtown Tallahassee by providing not only vehicles, but also multimodal connection points through there. If we can go to the next slide, here's our next steps. We're finalizing the...
This is not the brightest group you've ever talked to. Can you tell us what multimodal means?
Sure.
Well, tell me.
And I apologize for that. Multimodal means not just a car. So whether that is mass transit, the ability to do buses, bicycles, walking, whether that is either a multi-use path on the road or off the road. So it's just another way of getting around other than you having to hop in a car. And it provides obviously just means for us to get from point A to point B that don't just focus on the conventional way of traveling, which is, hop in the car and drive to, across the street from one store to the other. So it gives that possibility to make it safe for you to find a way to get from those alternatives that are not just in the car. My pleasure. And I apologize for that. So those are our next steps for the Airport Gateway project. We're finalizing the traffic study. There's a lot of opportunities down there in the south side of town for growth. So we want to make sure we resemble that. Again, the Innovation Park corridor is a key component of that. Make sure we capture all the possibilities in there so that we're planning forward and thinking ahead. And after that, we're going to start developing 30% roadway plans next year. And what that gives us is the ability to evaluate our alternatives. So we're going to look at multiple alternatives for all the corridors within the Airport Gateway. And particularly next year, we're going to be focusing on Phase 1, which Phase 1 is kind of, I can't really tell what colors those are, so I'll just describe them for you. They're the Spring Hill corridor from Capitol Circle to Orange Avenue, the Stuckey Avenue corridor, and then the new roadway through the Southwest Campus area and Innovation Park. So that's going to be Phase 1. That's really going to be our next focus for next year as far as the Airport Gateway. We're going to be developing alternatives for that. And then towards the end of the year, we're going to look at those alternatives, look at them, how they perform versus the project goals, which again is to provide other opportunities to travel other than a vehicle, multimodal component. Safety for the traveling for cars. Obviously, we can't forget cars and make sure that they meet the demands for traffic. But as well as providing a safe corridor, a designated corridor that can support the growth in the Innovation Park area, and then obviously an aesthetic corridor through those areas. So we're going to be evaluating those, and after we look at all those and evaluate them based on how they perform to all the goals, we're going to pick an alternative that will then proceed to design and permitting, and with ultimately construction sometime in 2024. Crystal ball gets a little hazy past next week, so right now the best we can come for construction is that whole 12 months of the 2024. But obviously, it's an exciting project. It gives an opportunity to implement lots of growth and investment in the south side, so we're trying to fast track that as much as possible. Next up in the south side area, it's Cascades Trail Segment 3, which is what you see here. It's a skatable art. So this is along the FAMU corridor. We'll call it FAMU. If you're not familiar with the Capitol Cascades nomenclature, it's a FAMU way extension. And in there, we're doing the skatable art and a history and culture trail. The skatable art is just like it sounds. It's artwork that is meant to be skated on. given the community a designated area for that so that we can stop skating where we don't need to be skating in some areas. And then the History and Culture Trail is just bringing some of those components of the community and the history within the south side of town and creating a interactive and educational way for people to learn about the history of the south side of town. Next slide, please. The Capitol Circle Southwest Greenway and the Debbie Lance Nature Park. So this is down over by really kind of that orange, down by close to the airport. And what that does is it creates a recreational amenity that links that area through there. As you can see, 9.3 miles of trails through there, designated multi-use trails, some ride and rake trails. So it, again, just provides another investment in an area of town and creates a great amenity for us to have in that part there. And we're actually going to be soliciting for construction of that fairly soon. So that's exciting. That'll be, hopefully, that's one of those projects that will be breaking ground by the end of the year. And then Fairground, which is, really to, right now we're implementing a study for that to see what the best use is and when any possibilities for that land or relocation of that. And that market study is underway and it's intended to be completed by the end of this year. That's another very exciting opportunity for the south side of town. Next slide, please. Orange Meridian Park, this is something that the IA board just approved last night. So we're going forward with that one, and it's, again, this is right there at Orange Avenue and Monroe Street, South Monroe Street. It creates a park, and you see some of the amenities that we've got through that area. So it takes a stormwater pond and a flood compensation area, and it tries to create a usable community space in that part of town. And I am going to now let Autumn come back and wrap us up.
Right, thank you, Abe and Dan. So just some memorable facts, right? So you just heard a ton about the projects that we're doing, and that's not all of them. There are 32. We just kind of hit some highlights. So just a couple things to be able to put in your pocket and share with your friends and family. So 32 active projects in our 5-year plan. Representing almost $520 million worth of infrastructure investment in the community. 22 miles of improved roadway, so that's reducing congestion, increasing safety. 79 miles of bike ped facilities, providing the multimodal choice. And of course, one thing that I'd like to throw in about these next couple of bullets, 250 miles of public park space, 8 new public parks, is that we've really tried to follow the property value discussion about infrastructure investments. And there is some really hard, good data about the property increase that are located next to public parks and greenways and trails. I've seen some a professor out of the University of Texas at Austin has showed where it was a 20% higher property value if you're in that first tier next to a public park or a greenway. National Association of Realtors says more like 8%. So somewhere in there, second tier with that same National Association of Realtors is more like 5%, third tier down to that 2 to 3%, and then after that it kind of just sort of goes away. But that's something that I think is really an important fact to share because we're building these projects. We are in the community. People are seeing them. We're doing public meetings. We meet with stakeholders. We do meetings just like this. And there's dirt that's being turned. And whenever there's change, there's concern about what that change may bring. So we're always happy to come and share the positive information about the Blueprint program. It's a great program of work. We've seen the positive impact it's had in the community through Blueprint 2000. And we're excited to be the team that brings it for you today. Next slide. So congratulations, you are our very first delivering on the Blueprint Promise presentation. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and if you have other groups that you're involved with and want to have us come and speak and talk about some similar things, we can do a shorter version, a longer version, the same version. Just let us know. We really want to get the information out about the program of work. This is yours, mine, our investment in ourselves and in our community, and we want to make sure that correct information is out there. And I can tell we're about to get some questions. I think it's time.
We're going to take questions from the floor now. Rules of the questions. If it's a question, ask it. Don't need to comment. And members only, and they're gonna do their best they can to answer as fast as possible to get going. Okay, so please wait for the microphone.
I had a question about the Bannerman Road, and I think you said it ended at Preservation, that the road Preservation, it goes into Southwood, and also going the other direction, it ended at Quail. I guess, is it not gonna be 4-lane all the way through on Bannerman Road?
So we've done our traffic modeling, and we do not, the usage between Preservation, which is Summerbrook, and Thomasville Road is the highest use area with the new commercial developments and such. The section between Preservation and Meridian Road, when we modeled it out, it does not warrant 4 lanes for the next, till 2045. Past 2045, it still doesn't warrant 4 lanes per the traffic modeling. So we've enhanced the throughfare on Bannerman Road between Meridian and Preservation we're going to add a median, which is going to allow us to create left turn lanes and get folks out of the travel lane and increase the operational efficiency of that section. So you will see a huge increase in throughput for that section based on the current utilization and future projected utilization of that section. It just doesn't warrant 4 lanes.
What about going the other way? Is it 4-lane all the way to Thomasville?
Yes, sir. From Preservation all the way to Thomasville through Bull Headley, the new development at Cawthon and Killarn Lakes, all the way to Bannerman Crossing, 4-lane all the way. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Irwin Jackson. You passed down hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you explain to us, maybe the administrator there can, why the Inspector General of the City of Tallahassee and the Ethics Commission, Ethics Board of the city did not have any oversight over the almost $1 billion that's being spent?
So the Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency is actually a separate agency than the City of Tallahassee or Leon County. Now, our board of directors, of course, is that joint sitting of the city commissioners and the county commissioners sitting as the agency. But when they all sit together, they sit as the agency and not as the city and not as the county. So Blueprint has a separate interlocal agreement that created it. So Dan, Abe, and I, we are Blueprint employees. We're not City of Tallahassee employees, and we're not Leon County employees. Blueprint is subject to a financial audit, as well as we do our annual performance reporting each year, and we've had stellar results through our financial audit and through our performance reporting. So we're just not subject to the same City of Tallahassee audit because we're not the City of Tallahassee. We're a Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency. But we, of course, do have annual audits each year and have received unmodified opinions each year. And we also have an ethics policy. Yeah, that's true. And the ethics policy is, I think it more closely mirrors the county, but I don't want to speak out of turn. But we do have an ethics policy, and absolutely, we do ethics training every year. Each year, and in line with our performance evaluations as individuals, we do our ethics training each year.
So I have a question. The perception among the public is that the list of projects always keeps changing. And the public was told that there was going to be a list of different projects that Blueprint was going to do over the decades that this funding would come through, and yet projects are still being added or subtracted. I'm not being critical, I'm just saying what the perception is, because I like some of the decisions y'all are making. So I guess the first question is, did we not sell it a proper way to the consuming public about that projects are going to change on time and you have different elected officials, priorities change? And number two, are you doing anything to track public opinion about this? Because I think this is going to be a critical issue. If you ever think about doing a new tax issue, how people perceive how these Blueprint dollars are being spent now is going to be a critical factor in whether future taxes of this nature, which is we all want to see our community grow, what are they thinking? Because if we're not communicating right to the public about this, then that's going to have a negative impact in the future. Thank you.
Right. I think to get to the last point first, communication is key for sure. That's one of the reasons that we're out now starting this delivering on the Blueprint Promise campaign. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. And the first question was about the list of projects, right? So the Blueprint Infrastructure Program has, in that interlocal agreement that created the agency, there's actually a list of projects. And those are the projects that we're building. And it's designed to be difficult to amend that list. The IA board has to go through several steps to be able to amend that list. It can't just be amended in one meeting like that. For the infrastructure program, we are designed to be streamlined. We know exactly which projects we're going to be building, and it's important to state that the list is part of the legal document that created the agency, which is great for us because we know exactly what we're working on. Let's see, what about that?
It's 27 projects, 2 public hearings, and
Yeah.
supermajority.
Yeah. Yeah, it's designed to be difficult. The list of projects was between 2013 and 2014. There was a sales tax committee that was made up of citizens, and they vetted 300 different projects to be finally funded through the sales tax extension. And they whittled that down to about 26 projects. And then there were, over that 2-year period, there were lots of public meetings and citizen input. Citizens actually came forward with their ideas for what the Blueprint task could be spent on. And the sales tax committee, made of 18 different people, whittled that down to about 26 projects. And then it was presented to the city commission and the county commission, who then adopted that list and added one. That's actually the Animal Service Center project was added to that list. It made it 27. And then that was part of the amendment to the interlocal agreement, which was the transition from Blueprint 2000 to Blueprint 2020. And that's where that list comes from. And the old 2000 projects are also on that list.
Heath Hannon, I'm very proud of what you're producing here. It looks great, and I have no worries at all about where the funding's going for your projects. They appear to be wonderful projects throughout our community. 2 of them I want an update on. The Zyla Street drainage improvements, I don't know if Blueprint's involved in that, or the Lake Lafayette, I saw in here, the Gateway project. What's going to be happening with the, I guess it's the old Booth property off of Buck Lake Road? The conservation easement, is that working through that area or not?
Okay, so the Lake Lafayette, it's the the Lake Lafayette and St. Mark's Regional Linear Park project. It's a long name. And it actually, the purpose of that project is to link 7,200 acres of public lands. And those Booth properties were acquired back in like 03, 04, and 06 through a Florida Communities Trust grant through Blueprint funding. And that project on the very eastern end will link up to those. The very western end of that project is Tom Brown Park. So it's a really great project. It's trail focused, going down to the bottom of Falls Chase, connecting with the Appalachia Regional Park, and then we're going to figure out how to swiggle through the Kirk Edwards Wildlife Area and connect out there to the Booth properties. The Zyla Street Pass, I think that's a pass project that the city is working on, and it's connected to the Tram Road Greenway. So we do actually have we're also watching that project because we have one of the Blueprint projects is to implement the Greenways Master Plan. So whenever the city and the county or the state are working near any one of our 32 designated greenways, we always pay attention and see if there's a way we can get involved with it to enhance it a little bit more. So we're watching that Tram Road one. The Tram Road one actually will connect out to the Southeast Park, which is just south in the Southwood area, and we are funding the construction of the Greenway on Tram from Southeast Park to Capitol Circle.
Last one.
My question is off like Bannerman Road, where that new public shopping center's going in, Judge Cawthon's old property. Are you going to link the trails back in towards Ox Bottom Road from there? So do we go, how do you get all the bike trails back into town? And I'll give you a case in point in Greenville, South Carolina. They've got a link that goes about 40 miles, and it follows an old railroad track. It's beautifully done. If we could link, the same way you do St. Mark's Trail on the south side, is there any way to link everything through down there on the north side off of Bannerman.
Take that, sure. That's a great question. So you will be able to connect to Thomasville Road, and then we're also going to connect to the Orchard Pond Trail, and we're also going to be looking at and hopefully funding and constructing a Meridian Trail down Meridian Road all the way to Lake Overstreet trails, which will get you all the way back into town. And then we're currently working on also sidewalk/trail facility along McClay Road from the State Park entrance to Bobbin Brook East that will get you into the state trail system as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.